Thanks everyone for coming for our session. So, like the title says, it's mostly talking about the data insights. But actually what I'm going to do today is not talk to you about how data can generate insights, because that's something you would have heard everywhere. You must be hearing a lot about how data can be leveraged, and that's not what I'm going to tell you today. What I'm going to tell you today is what you need to do with your data so that you can fulfill all the promises that data makes for your management or for your business. So it's about generating insights after you have dealt with your data. What do you need to do? Sorry, can I get help with this? Thank you, it works. So what I'm going to talk about is typically how data impacts our businesses, which I'm sure most of you know, but I'm going to give it a little bit of a twist before we go on to understand why we need to deal with our data. Then I'm going to talk about a general concept of what is data governance, which most of you again I believe know, but we are going to give a formal definition to this process of managing our data within our organizations. Then we will look at certain use cases which are critical to understand why should I manage my data in the way that we are proposing that you manage your data. We will look at a framework that AWS has, and this is a cloud agnostic framework, so you don't want to go ahead with AWS, please still go ahead and use this framework to do your governance activities. And then certain case studies where we are handling data governance for our customers within government and within education, and how we are helping them manage their data from the point of the data being sourced to the point of when the data is used up completely onto their destinations. Yeah. So this is obviously, again, I'm sure most of your presentations you see a lot of statistics being thrown at you. I'm not going to go through each of these items. What I want to bring forth or sensitize all of us about is the percentages, like 16% companies feel that their data is very good, which means we are looking at almost 80% of our organizations not having the trust factor in their data. When we say trust, we mean, can I utilize this data, generate some kind of insight into it, and then use that insight to take a business decision? That is the trust that is lacking in most of our organizations, 80%, as the statistics tells you. Now, what is the reason for this? And we keep asking this, I don't have trust in my data because, and if you see the 41% there, most of us live in a siloed environment. Our data is distributed across systems. We don't know how to consolidate it. If we know how to consolidate it, we are spending 50% of our time, which is human resources, to be able to bring that data at a common place, consolidate and generate some insight. And then what happens? We go back to business. Business says, oh, this is not what I wanted. Can you please go back and bring something else for me? And the cycle goes on and on and on. And at the end of the day, we do our reporting. We end up giving our information to business or to compliance or to regulatory bodies, but we are still not confident that what we have given is what is the right thing to be given. We are still exploring. And that's where, if you look on the right hand side, the 1-10-100 rule is something we usually speak to our customers about. Are you spending the $1 to prevent duplicates? Are you spending $10 to actually correct duplicates, which is a data quality issue? Or are you spending the $100 to store the duplicates? Now, which one would you choose? Most customers will come back and tell us we don't have duplicates. But when we go back, we start working with them, we look at their data, duplicates, missing values, values which don't make sense, like they've got values of some data coming to them in the 1900. And they know they are sitting in 2022. So those kinds of mismatches in data are already there. They are storing it because they don't know what to do with it. Can I delete that data? No, I can't. I come from some regulatory environment. I am correcting that data manually, spending 50% of my time, and then I am reporting it. But I'm storing it. So what happens? My storage cost is mounting. Now, this is just some statistics which we look at. Basically, what we are trying to do here is we are trying to understand that while we have so many problems with our data, So many issues we deal with our data. What we are missing out is this, the left-hand side. What we are missing out is actually we are not able to innovate or bring in speed. Now innovation is one of the most badly used words. Everybody talks of innovation and everybody says, oh, I am not able to use my data for innovation, or I am using my data for innovation. But then the question comes, if you are innovating, are you actually getting the result that you wanted at the end? Are you de-risking your innovation, or are you just calling it an innovation because you made a small procedural change? That's the questions we ask. Do I have agility? Do I have innovation? Am I able to generate the exact analytics, take a business decision, enter a market, maybe exit the market with a monetization on my data? Am I able to do risk management from the perspective of my data privacy, protection, sovereignty? Am I across the country? Can I engage globally with my data? If I can't, then I'm not actually using my data correctly. It's just there and I'm just reporting it. After the 50% manual labor that I'm putting it anyway. So this is what we believe is your aspiration versus your execution, which is not aligning. And what we propose is that you align your aspiration and your execution capabilities with what we would like to propose is governing your data. Now when we say governing, it sounds like a very big word. What am I supposed to do? Do I have to sit down, talk, come up with big reports, not actually deliver something on the ground? No, that's not what we are saying. We are saying that there needs to be a clear culmination, an actual aggregation of people, technology, and processes on the ground to be able to deliver this. So let's take a look at basically what we mean by data governance. It's actually nothing, it's a framework. When we say it's a framework, it's a set of concepts that you understand. It's primarily a specification of decision rights and accountability, meaning there are data owners. There is a marketing data pool which is generated. There's a finance data pool which is generated, operational data, every other kind of data. Who owns this? Who is the person who's responsible to tell me, yes, this data is correct? This is what we wanted, this is what we have captured. Nothing has happened to it on the way, which we also identify as lineage, and I'll come to it, that it was not transformed. You can use this data. I am giving you the guarantee that this data is right. That accountability is what we help you manage. It is first you set it, you define it, you manage it, and then slowly we look at you building a culture of data. Meaning everybody first thinks of data and then about something else, trying to understand how is the valuation, creation, consumption, control of my data such that I can generate the analytics that I want, or any other. Nowadays AI/ML models are also something which is becoming a challenge. So here are 6 use cases that we usually take to our customers, because through our work globally with our customers, we have realized these are the most common 6 problems that customers come to us with. These are 6 genuine global cases that we worked with. So they are currently using whatever framework on governance we had helped them build. I'm not going to go into too much detail, just to identify the problem. If you see the first use case, which is John here, he is looking at generating a data value, let's say sales. Now there are 10 reports which get generated in the organization. The sales value should ideally be the same in all the reports. What happens? It is different in all the reports. They go, they drill down, they find the problem, they come back. It's still not right in at least 5 of the 10 reports. What they are doing is, going back to our first case, they are spending 50% of manual labor just correcting that data. And at the end of the story, they agree upon a value and report it across the reports. So it's not that they've got the right sales value. It's not that all the values are matching. And I will come up with one of our case studies where we had that problem. What is it that has gone wrong? Someone has miscalculated, someone has picked a wrong value from a database, something somewhere is not right. They have no way of doing the root cause analysis. This is where we help you. How can you set up a system where this never happens? Second case, which we already discussed, Storage keeps going up. Everyone wants the data at the tap of a button. They don't want you to archive, they don't want you to delete, they don't want to think about what is happening with all the data that is coming into the organization. Even if you are archiving, it needs to be available very quickly, which means your data is always hot, which means you're spending money, storing all that data which you may not be needing it. We help you understand, is this data hot that you need to keep it, or can we move it to some strategy for some archival, or maybe just delete it because we don't want it, it's not relevant anymore. Third use case is where data is being shared. Now, sharing is something we all do, and I will give you an example of one of our customers we just met a few days ago. They use SaaS applications for their business to run seamlessly from end to end. The SaaS application is an API-based application where they just use the API to bring the data onto their platform, which doesn't do any kind of restriction on access. Anyone in the organization with access to the application can go and download data across the database. There is no restriction on HR can do only HR, marketing can do only marketing, finance can do only finance, which means everybody can see everything. That's not what we want as an organization. You should have access to only data which is relevant to you or your function. This is one. If you are giving access out to, say, a stakeholder who needs that data, there is a decision to be made. Am I giving access for lifetime? Am I giving it for 3 days? Am I giving it for 3 hours? Once I give access, will my entire database be shared with them? Or is it that I can give access only to the data that they've requested? But then you need to set those rules somewhere. And that is what we help you do. Set those rules of how sharing and access should be happening. Mary here is, again, worried about ownership, and this was a very interesting one. We were working with a bank. I can actually specify that. The executive level was interested in understanding what is a unified data strategy for my entire bank. We had 3 divisions talking to us: credit card, loans, and debit cards. The credit card and the loans division don't share data. Reason being, credit card says, listen, I am getting all my money, from the customer. If they have taken a loan with you and they are not paying the loan, that's not my problem. Because my credit card minimum due is coming every month. I don't care if the loan was paid or not. Loans is saying, please at least share with me what is outstanding with the credit card so I know whether this customer is in the red or not. Bank is saying, overall, I am so exposed to this customer, I don't want to give them any more products. But because there is no unified data strategy, they have no idea which customer is accessing which product and what is the bank's exposure. So we help them plug that as to what is the minimum level of data that can come as a strategy for the organization so that nobody is hurt and all divisions maintain their business the way they want. Chris here had and if you can see, he's the CTO from an insurance company. There was a data lake requirement. They came to us. The data lake was approved by the executives. However, there is no way that Chris is able to consolidate his data. And this I can tell you, we actually met a customer recently in India as well. They have 13 to 14 SaaS applications that they talk to in order to bring in data from various places. None of these applications have a shared key. So they manually maintain the integrity of their data through the keys that they download into Excel. They bring the data, they manage 16 separate fields to generate a key, which then they take to their systems. And we had no idea why this is happening, but that's how the consolidation of data in their systems were happening, which is the first recommendation we gave them. Kindly look at this again, because this may not work in the future. Finally, Mike here goes back to the same problem that I have done everything I could have done in my data to actually generate the right insight. Insight is still not something that my management likes. I don't know what to do, because they are to take the decision as a marketer to actually enter a new business area, which was another country they wanted to go to, but the data was not giving them that comfort. There was no trust. Whatever the insights were given to the management was very, very, suspicious. This is not sounding right. You've not captured demographics, you've not captured the actual dollar value, something is not matching. So in spite of all the efforts, this guy's use case was not actually going through. Now these are some typical examples that we have helped globally, and I will take you through what is our framework to help our customers. Like I said, this is completely cloud agnostic. Please don't think this is strictly using only AWS, because actually there is a very small technology element in this. You can use any technology in the world to satisfy that element. What we focus upon mainly is the data strategy. We request you to look at a unified way of consolidating your data. And that unified way depends on all these other pillars that you have here. We usually will ask you to look at quality. Now quality we have already looked at, its accuracy, timeliness, relevance of your data, currency of your data, how integral it is in terms of referential integrity, sorry, and various other things. Am I maintaining the quality of my data? Because that will give me trust ultimately in the end. We also look at policies which are related to protecting your data, and this is protection not just from internal access, but mainly also from external access. Giving you an example again, one of the customers, and that case study we've included here. When we met them, they were so confident that their data is fully protected, though it is on the web, because it's a public service, and so normally citizen data is something that goes on the web for that particular service. And one fine day they realized that somebody was able to use the API to download the entire citizen data, particularly Aadhaar card numbers. And that person was able to correlate Aadhaar card with the person and the phone number, and was actually calling up these guys offering some other services. They were actually shocked, how can our data be exposed? But this happens. So we help you do those guidelines. What are the right kinds of best practices that you should follow, that your data is always protected? Access and sharing we spoke about. How do you put in guardrails inside your database or within your organization also, from a people perspective? Which roles, which responsibilities, who is allowed to access what data? Then comes the technology bit, where we look at tools. You may already be using a data quality tool. Please carry on using that. Any other tools you required specially built up for managing your data governance, we assist you with that as well. Then compliance, which I believe, at least in the government, is the biggest issue. How are we going to report back? One of the case studies, I will bring you to that as well. How the compliance can be automated. Data organization, who are the data owners? What are their roles, responsibilities? And how should they manage their data? And finally, the day-to-day operation of data, which again, we recommend that you automate as much as you can. The more manual intervention, the more the chance of errors or more the chance of data going wrong. Now, if I was to move on to case studies, and I'm hoping it moves, yes it does. This is the first case we have done. We are still working with them, so they are in the process of getting a governance structure done for them. It's the Government of India's largest fund management software. They came to us with a very simple problem, and then we realized, it is how complex it was. They said that, we have so much data. It's been going on for the last 20 years. We do everything we can in our power. Our people generate all these reports, all these Excel sheets. Ultimately, we share all this data with our customer, which is the stakeholders at the other side. And they come back and tell us, this is not right, that is not right. This value is not reconciling with my value. There is a disbursement which is not matching what I have received. My bank has got something else, I have got something else, and you have sent something else. Now we have three values which we need to reconcile. So the customer experience is extremely bad. That's what they approached us with. We realized that the problem was because their data was organized in such a way that one single field, and this was the field disbursement, was being used differently across the places. So every time they generated any report, the disbursement was picked up from the wrong place. This was just one of the problems. They also had a lot of fraud that they wanted to deal with, basically preempt the fraud. They didn't want the fraud to happen. They said, can you help us within our data do some AI/ML such that we can detect fraud before it happens and plug it? Again, this is a completely on-prem system. They are not on AWS. We are working with them on-prem. They also had the problem of IT and business being in different islands, and they used a boat to go to each other. So every time IT needed something, business would take a boat and come, and IT wanted to go to business to deliver something. The boat was taking too long. And both of them had low resource, so they were all struggling with each other as to who's going to do what. And because the customer experience was actually low, there were just too many queries, which kept coming to business. Business would give it to IT. IT would say, I don't have the time. And it was going on and on and on in a loop. What we did was we basically did an assessment with them, which is why I'm able to tell you so much. We sat down with them. We asked them questions on each of these aspects. And we realized that most of their problem is because they don't understand their own data. Like I said, disbursement is a field in at least 40 tables, and it means different values to different reports across 40 reports. Now, which disbursement to use where? No one knows. The only person who knows is the IT person, and if that person is on leave that day, be assured they will pick up the wrong disbursement because they don't know which one to pick up. So that's where we suggested, why don't we do a catalog for you first. First, please understand what data you have. We write down all the data fields, we build business intelligence into it, and we at least make all the stakeholders realize this is the data in this place and it means this. Once that is clarified, we are working with them on doing a quality such that all duplicates are eliminated, they don't have inaccurate data, and at least the right field is going to the right report or to the right Excel sheet. Ultimately, it's still Excel sheets, but anyway. To reduce the load on IT, we suggested we do a self-service reporting tool so that business themselves can query the system and be able to go back to the customer rather than going to IT all the time, you know, the boat, and taking the boat and going and asking. So IT is not able to support all the queries that come to them. So let's just do a self-service tool. That's the other recommendation we've given them. And as I said, we are building their data strategy. We are sitting down with them and asking, why do you need this data? Why do you need the other data? Why don't you capture such and such data? And they also work, like all government organizations, largely on Aadhaar card. But Aadhaar card is not standardized, and it's an open field when data is accepted. So normally the number of the Aadhaar card can go wrong, junk data can be accepted. So we are working with them on these little quality issues. Why are you not making a specific format? Why are you not making sure it is corrected later on? Can you capture it through some other means? Blah, blah. So that's what we are sitting and working with them on quality and the strategy. Ultimately, we plan to build a lineage with them, which is where we will try and trace each piece of data from source to destination, trying to understand who are the owners from start to end and in the interim, and what did the owner do with the data? How did they transform this data before it came to them and when it came to them and after they gave it to somebody else? So once we know those transformations, we will know how the data travels across the system, and we will be able to correct any gaps that we identify. The second use case is one of our largest cleanliness missions in India, which we are working with. They approached us with a very simple requirement. They wanted a reporting tool. They requested AWS, can we use our quick site and do reporting or dashboarding for our customers, stakeholders, government, executives. And that's where we started working with them for basic analytics, and we realized the data has a lot of problems because, like I said in the previous example, they were capturing data across India through ULBs, if you're aware of what are ULBs. And each ULB had its own way of sending the data to them. Some were through a form, an online form, some were through Excel, some was through FTP, and so forth and so on. Now the problem was they did not have any way of standardizing data at that point in time, which means whatever data was coming was not standardized across ULBs also. Even the ULB numbers were not standardized. And that's how we started working with them, firstly on quality. We said that you need to standardize some part of the data. Once it comes into the system, we did some ETL for them also, tried and cleaned it up so that it is ready for reporting. Then we built a warehouse for them where we said that the warehouse can be functionally distributed so that they are able to report only the relevant functions, and it's not like you're reporting the entire thing to everybody. And then now finally we are looking at working with them on predictive analytics use cases. It's still in the motion, but that's where the rich data is now contributing to predictions as to how will a certain ULB perform or whatever else it might be. The third and the final use case is from an edtech. These guys also approached us initially with a quality issue. They said, we don't know whether our data is great quality, can you check? And we said, look, how do we check your data? Because we don't even understand what you want to do with it. Starting from that point, we firstly ended up building an entire pipeline for them. So they came to us with a quality issue. We said, let's see how's the quality. Then they liked what we did for them. So firstly, we set up a pipeline. They went into creating a lake. From the lake, we started running their AI/ML models. And we worked backwards to correct the quality. Because we were not sure that whatever they are requesting for was actually coming to the lake or not, because they had different kinds of nested JSONs within their environment, and sometimes they themselves didn't know that they were capturing a data in a JSON. So we first brought it to the lake. We started generating AI/ML, started looking at student behavior, and then we said, this data is lacking, are you capturing it? If you're capturing it, yes, let's look at quality. And that's how we worked backwards and corrected their data quality. Today they have already got 3 use cases on AWS through the data lake, and we are looking at now building a lineage for them because they have lots of futuristic business that they want to build, and they are not sure which is the first one to start with. So we will be doing some real-time reporting, some real-time insights, which will help them take those business decisions as to which is the next use case to work on. They have already started plugging back the student behavior data into their marketing campaigns that they do, trying to reach out to very, very specific students based on whatever findings they have got from these models. And I think that's it from me for today. So if there are any questions I will take, or